The memory and subconscious plays a very large role in the way I make my work. I find that the beginnings of the drawing start with one element and then building upon that through association with text or phrases and humor, and like thinking about not thinking actively, allowing that unconscious part of your psyche to sort of bubble up a bit more. And so it's like going fishing with a multitude of different kinds of bait, and you aren't quite sure what you'll catch, and once you start fishing, maybe a different kind of fish comes up and you work with what you've got. My name is Gathaara Sölanke Fraser. I am an artist living and working in Nairobi. I've been an artist for a little over 5 years now. I started midway through my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Kenyatta University. Me leaving that program was less to do with not thinking that it's a valuable way to learn art, and more about that, it wasn't the right program for me, at least not at that time. My friends and family, particularly friends, have, in the absence of that formal curriculum, have held space for me in a way that, it looks like coming to the studio, it looks like sharing images of work and having not necessarily a crit session, but like sessions in which we can discuss what the work is doing, what I'm feeling in that way. And I've been making work since then that I feel sort of charts my way through the world, tries to understand my place in it. I am also a studio assistant, and I find that has influenced my practice in the way that I approach the model of the studio, right? The idea of it as a social space, as a place of work, but also as, it's a very personal space as well. I find that very important to allow things to happen at their own pace and to embrace slowness. A lot of the last year has been spent trying to grow plants and trying to take walks. The drawing I would make 10 days after a walk is a different drawing from what I would make 5 minutes after the walk. That period of time is spent sort of accumulating material and accumulating experiences, allowing these things to settle in your mind and to have space with each other and think together, even though it's like maybe just the shape of a leaf or the silhouette of a landscape is important in the way that the elements within the work come together. I would be less inclined to describe my work in terms of like the media use and more of what I'm trying to do with it. And I think of the work as a tool to, navigate context and instruments to generate meaning. And so that may take the form of drawing or painting or, installation. That idea of like multiplicity is important for me because a starfish can be a star can be a sea urchin can be an explosion. And so the employment of this image in multiple other things means that you have to sort of adjust your thinking when you come to it in different contexts. The internet has influenced the way I think about images, and it becomes an exercise for me to sort of sit with a particular form or image and ask myself, what else can this be? Where I'm using my Instagram profile to harvest images, but also to put them together in ways that they were not intended to. The image of a snake and the image of women's heels might not have a direct, relationship, but there is a connection there if you allow your mind to work on it. And so I use charcoal and I use tempera and spray paint as well to allow that connectedness to come together, because there's an immediacy to the use of these materials. They don't take a long time to cure. Looking at abstruse calculations. On either side of the work are these stencil figures that I have made use of in different compositions, and I think they do the work of creating a line without it being a solid point from one side to the other. And so your eye can follow that procession even with the interruption of the triangle and the hands in the center. There are also drawings within drawings, and this idea of adding foreign elements in a sense that aren't sort of married to the substrate. They introduce an element of chaos and tension. I find that a sort of chaotic understanding where you just sort of pick whichever point of beginning and move through the images and through the context that's being created provides a more, I guess, intuitive approach. You know, this sort of innate knowing. You know, like you find yourself in a dream, and you don't have to sort of, you know, ask people in the dream, okay, what's happening here? You just know, right? And so that's sort of what I'm trying to get at. I think quite a bit of the material that ends up in my work is sort of my way of reckoning with space-time and the fact that things move through the three-dimensional world, right? But like they also move through time, or like time moves through us. And so there's always that sort of connection between yourself and a thing that happened many years ago. My writing and visual practice, I kind of try and have them not necessarily moving in lockstep, but like they draw from each other. And so a way in which I write poetry looks like, again, accumulating material, and this can just be throwaway phrases from a magazine, words that have like a weird connection together. A lot of the music I listen to also employs this I guess chimeric approach to making, where genres sort of blend into each other. This being my first solo exhibition within Nairobi is important because this is where I work, this is where I live. There is a excitement to it, but like it's also the sort of excitement of, you know, looking down from a high point and like sort of wanting to jump. Now is as good a time as any to share that with people and to think with others. A way I would encourage others to look at the work and to think with it is to, you know, sit in that discomfort of not immediately knowing something. I think there's something to be said for the process of unknowing something, and I think that's different from not knowing. Like you already have an idea of what a dog looks like or what a star represents or whatever, but like the process of actively unknowing it is something I found that it's very uncomfortable, and so I would like the viewer to sit with that discomfort. Colors also carry the burden of meaning with them. I would also want an approach to thinking about the color to be in the same way you approach the images as well. Just understand that you have your own connections to it. You know, what I'm trying to do is, you know, practice presence and, you know, be here now and carry that with me as I make art, as I show it with others, as I travel, and as I learn. I am very excited to see the work together. I think that it's a very different experience to see these things within the confines of the studio in the process of working on them, vis-a-vis now all together working in concert and echoing each other.